today you'll be receiving from a message full of God's power to help you become everything that God has created you to be. You know, God sent his son, Jesus, to die for you to have a life of abundance and for you to be an ambassador for him. What does that mean? That your life should represent his goodness. It's time to be about it. Tune in today's message and you'll be blessed.
Luke chapter 5. Verse 1 says, "And it came to pass that as the people pressed upon him to hear the word of God, Jesus, he stood by the lake Gennesaret and saw two ships standing by the lake, but the fishermen were gone out of them. They were washing their nets." Verse 3, Jesus, he enters into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and he prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land. And he sat down and he taught the people out of their ship. Then verse 4, he says to Simon Peter, he says, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught." Simon Peter says this, "Master, we have toiled all the night and have taken nothing." So this is before Peter started following Jesus. He was working all night, and guess what he caught? Nothing. So here when Jesus shows up again, verse 3 in John chapter 21 says, "Throughout the night, they caught nothing." There is nothing sexy about your past. It was drama when you left it, and if you go back to it, it will be drama again. Sometimes when you're moving forward, and oftentimes moving forward takes a lot of courage. At first that first step feels good. Then that second step feels good. Then the waters start to go a little hectic, or things start to happen, or we didn't expect this to happen. How many of y'all expected to still be wearing masks this far into 2021 already? I didn't. I was like, this is going to be, okay. So you got all these things going on and all this kind of stuff going on. And you know what? We was better off. I just wish things could go back to the way they used to be. There was a whole lot of drama before this. I'm not believing to return to the past. I'm believing for double for our trouble, so that when we go back to whatever is normal, I don't want normal. I want double, for I want victory. I want winning. But what happens is a lot of times we dramatize and we make our past sexy. I had so much more fun when I was out in the world. See, this is why I didn't join the church, because it didn't matter when I showed up what I was wearing. But I walk into church, and if y'all think, oh, she shouldn't be wearing this, or say, now y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. You know what? I got this bill, and if I hadn't paid my tithes last month, I'd have been able to pay this bill. This is why I shouldn't be listening to all these dumb church folks, because now I got some lack. And if I go to church, they're going to tell me to sow some more seed. I see you, devil. You getting caught up reminiscing on your past, thinking there's something sexy about it. But this guy ran back to his past, and he still was whack at it. Still caught nothing. Verse 5, "So Jesus said to them, 'Boys, you do not have any meat or fish, do you? Have you caught anything to eat along with your bread?' And they answered him, 'No.' And he said to them, 'Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some.'" Now, let me say this to folks out here who you may be contemplating this walk with God. Notice how Jesus handled this guy who had already betrayed him 3 times. Because you know what? I'm going to have to say kudos to Jesus. Because if I give you a warning that you're about to screw me over, and then you do it anyway, and then instead of you saying, oh, I messed that up, I'm going to make up for what I did wrong, and let me get out here and be about her business, and I got to go find you back in your mess with stuff you weren't good at in the first place. So basically, you threw away everything I ever told you, our entire relationship, everything I sold into you. Guess what? We got a problem. And that's how people think God is. Why so many people stay away from God. You got to be careful when you are talking to your relatives or your unsaved friends or family, that you don't represent God according to your lack of love, your lack of revelation. The Bible talks about the prodigal son. When he came home, he said he was dirty coming out of a pig's pen. It said nothing about the father making him take a shower, get the stench off before he put that robe on his back or the ring on his finger. Jesus is like, I'm coming to find you. You out here in your mess, and you just as whack as you were before I found you. And instead of leaving him like that, Jesus could have said, I'm not about to teach him how to fish. I'm not about to bless him in fishing, because if I let him, have success in fish, then he might decide, yeah, I want to stay fishing. Jesus wasn't operating in fear. And parents, we got to be careful how we parent. That we're not commanding our children to do things, and the basis of it is fear. Instead, Jesus approaches him with compassion, which is what he's doing every time you allow him to unbeliever or backslid Christian or someone in here who's pretending church, carrying around guilt because of the mistakes that you've made. Look how Jesus approached this guy who, when it counted, failed. He said, go ahead and, pitch that. In verse 6, he said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. So they cast the net. And now they were not able to haul it in because for such a big catch, a mass quantity of fish was in it. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. Because, here's the thing, and this is why backsliding is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Because while Jesus is doing all of that, he's talking to them from the shore. They didn't even recognize him. And this is why sin is so dangerous, because when you go backwards and you allow yourself to go backwards because things are hard, when you give into that discouragement and you slide back, or you let things slip, or you stop coming to church, or you stop listening to the word, or you allow yourself to move away from that, it can be harder to recognize God the next time he shows up. Don't play with that. Then the disciple said to the love that Jesus loved, said, it is the Lord. Simon Peter, hearing him say that it was the Lord, he girded up his garments. In other words, he took off his stuff, he changed, and he jumped into the sea. Verse 8, and the other disciples came in a small boat, for they were not far from shore, only some 100 yards away, dragging the net full of fish. Now, I want to point out, obviously, in telling this story, to some degree, Peter could be like, man, you kind of dogging me out here, highlighting all the stuff I did wrong. But let me highlight what he did right here. Is when Peter recognized that it was Jesus, everybody else got in a small boat to, methodically get back to shore. But Peter stripped off that fisherman's garment, which is his past, and everything else, that the smell, the stench. And he said, I'm not even going to wait for everybody. I'm not even going to be dignified about this thing. He dove in the water and he swam back to shore. And I promise you, they arrived around the same time. So that means that you can see that Peter had to be swimming pretty frantically to get back to the shore at the same time as the boat. And that's one of the things, when things are hard, don't dive in the water of despair. Dive in the water of the grace of God, and you do everything you can to get there as fast as you can. Sometimes you got to, listen, especially when you're dealing with grief, sometimes you got to take it off. You got to throw it. How can I take it? I just can't do it. I'm not built for this. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. He will not allow you to be tempted. I didn't say he won't give you more than you can bear. He will not allow you to be tempted with something that is more than you can bear. If you are still here and you are still breathing, you have the ability to throw off those old garments, that garment of lack, that garment of discouragement, that garment of low self-esteem, that garment of pain, that garment of bitterness. You are able to take that off yourself and you dive in that water. Now, you may not be pretty about it. You may not have a pretty breaststroke, but if you got to go on your back, if you got a doggy paddle, if you got to do whatever you got to do, you get there.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I want to invite you to subscribe, as well as visit our website at michelleferguson.org. We have some materials there that can help you as you walk through life, live the life that God created for you. As always, I'm Michelle Ferguson, helping you to discover, develop, and celebrate who God has created you to be. See you next time.